begin by tapping on different parts of your body and saying, awaken my cells, awaken. So you're going to walk on the spot and say, I'm awake and ready.
I'm awake and ready.
As a purpose of education, why should we go to school at all? Especially in the current context when anything you want to learn, you can go onto YouTube. You can actually be a self-learner if you just know how to, do basic reading and writing. Why are you born? Why this incarnation? Why am I here? Because if you don't create the space for that question, then that existential question will haunt you. If you just put your finger in the air, okay? Just put it in the air, and I tell you very quickly, just to draw scenery that comes to your mind, what will you draw? Yes? The mountains, the sun, the little river, the heart, blah, blah, and the little birds flying. So namaste, and I salute the divine in all of you. Bonjour. We are going to start off by connecting to our bodies, because this is the vehicle we have. And for that, I would propose a short activity from Kriya Yoga, which is suggested by none other than Paramahansa Yogananda. So I request you all to stand up, please.
And push your chairs so that you have
a little bit
of space.
If you can't for any knee reasons or something, that's okay, you can do it sitting down. So now with your intention, because the most important thing that we have is our intention. And remember that our bodies have cellular memories. They're memories which are embedded in our cells. We need to release that blocked energy. So begin by tapping on different parts of your body and saying, awaken my cells, awaken. Awaken my cells, awaken. Awaken my cells, awaken. Tap yourself on the shoulders. These are all the meridians of energy levels which are there at the back. And with your intention, say, awaken my cells, awaken. Awaken my cells, awaken. Good. This is removing all the blocks. Now, with your hands, you're going to say, I'm positive.
I'm positive.
I'm open.
I'm open.
I'm enthusiastic.
I'm enthusiastic.
I'm open.
I'm open.
More affirmations. I'm hopeful.
I'm hopeful.
I'm energetic.
Energetic. I'm happy.
I'm happy. I'm compassionate.
Compassionate.
Great. And now, what was it? We have to, yes, you're going to walk on the spot and say, I'm awake and ready.
I'm awake and ready. I'm awake and ready. I'm awake and ready.
Good. On the spot matching.
And ready.
Good.
I'm awake
Thank
and
you.
ready.
You may please sit down. Thank you.
So we are all ready for what we will see.
So we're going to start off, we're going to start off with a short film, which is going to show you how we do the project-based learning in our school. There are no textbooks, so you're going to have a look at this. Yeah.
When we begin a project, we get together as a team and we map the project. The whole cycle from the purpose to planning to creating the action, then evaluation. The team of teachers also look at the different subject competencies that can be learned through this so that we can make a connection, draw the links. This mind map is a kind of initial representation of how we can address different subjects as well. As a group, you are going to make one MasterChef dish. Okay, so you have to make something that is interesting, healthy, tasty, within the budget given to you, within the time limit, and you're going to present it to your peers. That's it? Yeah. Any questions? Okay, it's 10 to 12, 1.5 hours. You can use the resources in the cafe. Go. MGIS MasterChef, I was looking particularly at humanities. In IB, we call it individual and societies. In that, we have economics. So my goal, specific learning objective for this module, for this unit was to look at understanding economic terms, which are the foundation of economics, such as alternatives, choice, scarcity, resources, capital, demand, supply. And I wanted the children to make connections with real life experiences, which is very much our MGIS pedagogy. So the goal was not to introduce the theory and the facts first, knowledge of the subject first, but to help create an experience.
My word is consumer.
So who was the consumer here?
The consumer was me in my case, and for everyone else's case, they were all.
Your group was consumer.
The word I have got is resources. So the ingredients we used were a resource, but also resources such as space and time. So we had limited space and limited time. Also money is a resource. So a lot of resources were used in this task.
These are kind of experiences along the way which they connect to and which leads to the larger concept that we are building. So when they come to grade 11 and 12, when they're actually studying economics, it's much easier for them to make connections to their past knowledge. This is like a little window into that world which was created and gets them all very excited.
So that's just a glimpse into how we are actually learning mathematics and science and language. There are no textbooks, there are no subjects, the knowledge is not fragmented into subjects, but children are actually engaged in real-life projects that they vote for, that they choose to do. And what interesting thing about the cafeteria project is that it's very simple to do. Even with the lemonade, you can do that. Also, what's interesting is that we started this under a tree with just one gas cylinder 20 years ago, this one project, which is across all the classes, but we have many other projects. But what's interesting is that in 2016, Finland decided that all elementary schools in Finland must have the cafeteria as a compulsory project. So there are things that have gone from India to other countries as well. It's just not that we are the ones who are following things. So one of the things, well, this is a school which is based in Ahmedabad. And one of the things that we found very important as a purpose of education, why should we go to school at all? Especially in the current context when anything you want to learn, you can go onto YouTube. You can actually be a self-learner if you just know how to do basic reading and writing. But one important thing is to know yourself. Why are you born? Why this incarnation? Why am I here? And how do I contribute in a meaningful way to the world? Because if you don't create the space for that question, then that existential question will haunt you for the rest of their life. And that's why you have people with midlife crisis changing over and so much of probably depression. So to know yourself is very important. This is also important in a very personal context for both Pascal and I. Both of us are parents who lost a child. We lost Tara in 2014. And this girl, who was such an enlightened soul who came to bless us, left behind amazing poetry that was published later by British Council, by Aurobindo Ashram, etc. And this was a child who knew that she's not going to have a life as a teenager because she always told us she was not interested in getting older. And it wasn't that she was suffering from any illness, it was just a sudden infection. But the kind of things that she spoke about is something that became our guiding path. And I think in every conference, we are not 2 people, but we are 3 people giving the conference because Tara is also with us, and you will see her through this conference. So one of her poems is Who Am I?, written at the age of 9 years. So this is something that is there for every child and every human being. Now, I speak this in the context of statistics. Every 1 hour, 1 student commits suicide in India. This is the reported suicides. Remember, there are others which are unreported. India has one of the highest world suicide rates. This is the Lancet Report Commission, which is coming from the 5 top universities of UK. And among them, academic stress is one of the major reasons for suicide. So any educational system that can push a child, a young child, with all that potential that is God-given, to take his or her life is a system that needs to be changed.
And what is the sense of a system which is leading to that? Even if one child takes his life, we are all responsible. And we have to act, we have to do something. We have to ensure that it doesn't happen. We have to ensure that this education is for the benefit of the children. It's for their growth, their development. And this is a collective responsibility that we have in that.
And I think today that we can actually stand in front of you and speak is also because Tara was extremely happy. She was, of course, a student at our school, and she left behind a lot of notes saying so. Now, one of the things about why are we in this situation today, no employability, low employability, depression rates, existential issues, higher school dropouts, is because there are certain dominant models of education and certain paradigms. One of the main paradigms that we've been brought up in, a kind of a conditioning, is that of the survival of the fittest. This is a false paradigm which led to all these competitive wars. Even coming from the Darwin's theory, of course, which today has been challenged, because Darwin borrowed that theory of the survival of the fittest from Wallace, but Wallace's original theory was the non-survival of the weakest and not the survival of the fittest. So this was a false paradigm, pushed us into competition. And where is all of this coming from? From the colonial model, from the prison model, from the Industrial Revolution, from the economic needs of that time, from the 18th and 19th centuries. So what is there in the prison model? If you compare, and that's Foucault, Michel Foucault, who is a French philosopher, compares prisons, army, hospitals, and schools. And what do you have in common? Uniforms come from prisons. The timetable comes from prisons. The roll call, the assembly session. You can still go on. The monitor system, the need for supervision, the cellular structure. So all of this is an inherited model. But it's time that we actually broke that.
And the architecture is coming from that, like the cell in a prison that you find also in the hospital. But when you know that education system today, which is all over the world, not only India, when you know that it's coming from the prison system, so the question is, what have these children done to be in a system of prison? Why are they considered as criminal? What crime have they committed? And you know, the thing is that we are all victims of this system. We have gone through this system. But the fact that we have suffered this system doesn't mean that we have to replicate it and to put it to the next children. We have to awaken. You know, like the cell, we ask our cell to awaken. We have to awaken and to say, no, that's enough. We will not perpetuate that.
So one of the things that we started our school, one of the principles was, of course, based on democratic principles and self-governance. So children actually make the rules. When they're from kindergarten onwards, they draw their rules when they can't write, and they decide what's important for them to have a smooth functioning. And every week, every 10 days, there's a class council meet, and by rotation, there's a chairperson and a secretary. You can see that happening, and that is how they resolve all their conflicts. And of course, we as teachers or school authorities are there to help them.
United Nations Sustainable Development.
And yeah, this is of course linked to the UN Sustainable Goals. This is how you can put it in action. Once I was there in election commission meet in Delhi when Mr. Qureshi was election commissioner, and they were wanting to ideate on how young people can actually go out and vote, to increase citizenship. And I just couldn't resist saying, if your schools are run like fascist organizations where children don't have a voice, how do you expect these people to go out and vote immediately and believe that democracy can actually matter? So I think we have to really empower kids when they're young. Similarly, the seating arrangement, what you saw in that typical cellular structure of linear arrangement of seating, we had to break that for several reasons in our school, and we finally decided that the tables were around the walls, they go back to the walls, there's no fixed seating, every activity, even part of the activity, children change their spaces. Some of the inspirations, of course, some, and I'm not saying all, major ones, of course, John Dewey, father of experiential learning, Piaget, genetic psychology, then you have, of course, Krishnamurti, when he spoke about freedom from fear, a great intellectual mind as well as a spiritual mind. We have Aurobindo, who also inspired us, and of course there's Gandhi with all his focus on things that children can do and the dignity of labor that we need to bring in. So what is it that we need to do? When we decided to make the school, and both of us are teachers, we are not just, both of us we teach every day. I've taught from kindergarten to grade 12, I continue to do so, Pascal teaches as well. So we are coming from a different space, and we felt it was really important that we create a school coming from the space of teachers. What are our needs? What are our children's needs? So the most important thing for us was learning for well-being. We go to school and we come out more inhibited and more conditioned. Just as an example, I often tell people, if you just put your finger in the air, okay? Just put it in the air, and I tell you very quickly, just to draw scenery that comes to your mind, what will you draw? Yes? The mountains, the sun, the little river, the heart, blah, blah, and the little birds flying. You can ask this question to 3 generations of people from north, south, and east and west of India, and you will find each Indian in a population of 1 billion with the diversity we have, we all draw in the same way. If that's not conditioning, I don't know what is. So we wanted an education where children have a choice in what they're doing. So they have a lot of choices within the structured educational, the module that we are doing. The other important thing is the purpose. Why am I doing this? Is it linked to my life? Is it contributing to society? If it's not, if it's just an academic exercise, the children know it's meaningless, it doesn't motivate them. So if you're talking about motivation, the intrinsic motivation actually happens as opposed to extrinsic one when it really connects with you, when it makes some sense to you. So purposeful education is important. Thriving is important, no longer a paradigm where I just got to survive. We need a paradigm to thrive, to enjoy what we're doing. And finally, the concept of Swaraj that Gandhiji gave. And I think the importance of self-governance and autonomy is not to be just simply independent in a selfish way, but to understand that we're interconnected, and therefore everything that we do is kind of in a web of interdependence. So that is something that children can learn when they're actually involved in real life. Now, 20 years ago, when Pascal and I started this school, we thought India is not really a poor country. We got mismanaged things. So for sustainable development, what if we partnered and we used the city resources? So we took a municipal school. We partnered with the municipal corporation. And we said from this municipal school, we'll make it into an international school, into an IB school, with access to the poorest of the poor and the middle class, because they're the backbone of the country. And why should an international education be only accessible to a certain privileged class? So that was the idea. And we thought if we can do that with one municipal school, that potential is there with every other school, and we would have shown that. Secondly, this was a 3-tier project with teacher training and, of course, the School of Application and Research. But of course, when we started the school, we always see that quote, Gandhi's quote, be the change that you wish to see. But nobody tells you when you set out to make the change what happens. And we were in for a huge amount of agitations, bus burnings, blood signature campaigns, jail bhalo andolan, placards with Simon go back. We don't want foreigners, we want a white man. Why Gandhiji and international? And most importantly, we don't want you to mix castes and classes and religions. Because Pascal being very French, they have an idea of secularism or laïcité, what the French call it. And he said, there is apartheid in education in India. Poor children go to poor schools, middle-class kids go to middle-class schools, and the rich go to elite boarding schools. So I want to break that. And Pascal being passionate about India and a Sanskrit scholar and having read the Upanishads and all that, was very well grounded in Indian philosophy. And we set out to do the school where all the castes would be together. And this was one of the things that people said we couldn't do. So anyway, they filed public interest litigations, the riots spread from city to city, and we won the case in Gujarat High Court. They went to Supreme Court. They lost there as well. And guess what? After we started the school, who were the first people to come for admissions? The same people who were out on the streets fighting. And some of the kids actually studied in our school. I forgave them. Anyway, the other part about, the thing about inclusion is, it's not like you were saying, it's not an act of charity, it's a need that we have. If you want a homogeneous society, then you're going to have only one kind of people. But you want a heterogeneous society. You want people with different points of view. So the class group must have that diversity within the class. And that's why some of our children, before the RTE happened, we were already taking 20% children from underprivileged, socioeconomically underprivileged backgrounds. So this is some of the backgrounds where they come from.
And we keep them till 12th standard.
And they stay till 12th, and they have an IB education, and today they're in some of the top universities of the world. But now, what kind of projects do we do? So here's another example, which is linked to another goal of the UN, which is the e-waste project. Now, I said we link it to the child's life. So what do? They actually look at what are they consuming in a week. Let's say they're having biscuits and cereals or whatever. They collect the packaging, they bring it to the school, and you can see that they're actually classifying from biodegradable or plastic or whatever. Then they're weighing it, they're measuring, they're actually even weighing how much of kilos of waste products they are actually creating. They're looking at the packaging also, examining the ingredients. What is it that's going into my body? How much of permitted colors? What does it mean? What is the MRP? What is the weight of the packet? Then they're classifying between imported and local. They're classifying between needs and wants. What is it that I really need for my life? And what is it that is just a desire which is fueled by consumerism? Then from going there, they start giving awareness programs and rallies. They're working with rag pickers to understand what is waste segregation. What do they go through when they put their hands into it? So they ask them, they meet them. Then from all the waste that these kids generated, a project came through to reuse that to design interesting containers, which they went and gave back to the city, and they began to now collect e-waste to again use that. So we do the mapping. So the way we do our subjects is we begin with a real project that the kids want to do, and we map in teachers, we all sit around it and we map the learning. What's the mathematics in this? What's the language in this? What's the science in this that I can cover? But we're not starting from the subject and content at all. We're starting from the project. And our processes are first the experience, then the abstract stuff, then the definitions. That's the last thing, but the kids have already understood the meaning. So here's just the kind of mapping we do.
Which is why we don't need textbook, for example. We don't need an external source of knowledge, which is imposed in this empty head of these stupid students who don't know, these children who are stupid, they don't know anything. We consider that they know everything. We just have to make this connection, and then what is inside will flourish, will come outside. We are just there, we call initiator. We are just there to initiate a process which will allow each and every individual to find from inside how to flourish.
So yeah, that's interesting thing, because 20 years ago we were thinking, what should we call ourselves? We don't want to call ourselves teachers, that's too didactic. In fact, in one of some evening, my mother was somewhere, and some people met her, this is just 15 years back, and they said, oh, your daughter runs that school. That's a school where they don't teach anything. And she came and told me, she says, this is what people are saying. And we had lots of things. We were inclusive, so people said this was a school for retarded people. Then they said this is a school where they don't teach. And the next morning I woke up. First I was very upset. And then I thought to myself, she was right, that lady. She understood, because we don't teach, only children learn. And that's a very different paradigm. So from there, people said, okay, what's the name of your school? Are you Montessori? Are you this? Are you that? We said, no, we are inspired by so many people. It's Jugaad. We've taken whatever works, we just use that. So we called it generated resources learning, which was interesting because we're generating our resources that's sustainable, not buying resources. And our school, you will see in some of the other examples, we're working with minimum resources. And your first most important resource is your body. So carrying on with that, by doing these meaningful projects, what's really important is that children find their life purpose. They understand what do they enjoy doing, what they don't like doing, what are their skills, what are their interests, and that's how they find the passion. So here, this is just an example of Johan, who came to us, to our school with some kind of not interested in learning because it's some sort of dyslexia, but he graduated and today he's a musician. Well, thank you for the music class, because we have that. And we did, because he was not able to read and write, and he came to us at a pretty late age, we connected with his passion for music. We did poetry and mathematics. So we did mathematics with his drumming, we did physics of sound, we did history of music, and etc. So we mapped the thing around him and with the
poetry of music, of sound.
Yeah. So that's what happiness is when you find your life purpose, when you're in your life purpose. That's really fundamental. Now also going from inside to outside the classroom, kids, other projects they're doing, they're making films on social issues. That's what's connected to them. As an example, they made films for Election Commission of India, they made for Municipal Corporation as well. 25 kids making posters and jingles. It went out to 75 lakh voters in Gujarat. 71 lakh people signed the pledge, returned it back to the government of Gujarat. I'm talking this a few years back. So we're continuing to work. Kids are working with IAS officers, bureaucrats, professionals to do different things. That's how you bridge the gap between the real life and school life. As a result of that particular project, the school was awarded from none other than one of our favorite professors. So one of the things is that everything is a resource. That was our concept. Everything is a resource to learn. If I have to map, I can map learning in this room. There's so much of learning there. So the body, the space, and the daily objects that surround me. If I can just use that much, there's enough learning there. So you can see that, we are a municipal school, okay? The municipal commissioner, mayor, our trustees, Pascal and our trustees, so it's still a municipal school building, very small spaces. You can see how we're using the floor. We've made the world map on the floor just using poster paint and ropes and cutouts. Now this becomes a giant board game, so kids can actually run to it, pick up a chit, run to Amazon River, run to this, that, whatever. And once they've learned, then they go blindfolded to that space and they start playing games. And in 4 days, they know it all by heart. But
and here we have the real north and the real south and east and west. It's not a piece of paper that you can move.
Also, this is very much within the framework. Well, we did this very intuitively, but in the last 3 to 4 years, in neurosciences, they have come out, well, they're talking about this framework of embodied cognition, where your body is embodying that cognition. The cognition is not just, it's not an abstract process that takes place. The whole body has intelligence, and that's so important to use it. So you can see other ways that we're using the body for body awareness, sexual education. In the photograph there, you can see kids have become the needles of the time. So they're learning to tell time in grade 1. They pick up a chit, show the time, so they become the needles and they show the time. And the teacher says nothing. Like Pascal was saying, we are initiators. We're not teachers. We just initiate an activity, but if it's well planned, and I personally believe that a pedagogical class, a good pedagogy is a work of art. And I take the same pride in my classes as an artist would. It is like a symphony. Every stroke has to be at the right place. Every activity has to flow with coherence. And if I planned it like that, I start it and the group takes over. And that's what's happening. In the other activity, in the other photograph there, you can see children have become electrons in an atom and they're dancing. So they're doing the atom dance, and that's how they learn the periodic table. Again, embodied cognition. Nothing, just their body and their imagination.
And you see how we go from Dweta to Adwaita. Knowledge, from a knowledge which is outside to a knowledge which is with the subject. The child becomes the needle of the clock. The child becomes the electron. It is not something there outside. We are feeling this gap. And if India has brought something very important in the world in terms of philosophy, it is this concept of non-duality. Because there is no duality. It's just creation of our own imagination. Maya is the duality. But the universe is not the duality. It's the Advaita.
So some of the other things that, when we talk about values and you talk about humility, I think that was one of the themes today. How do you really have that? You can't teach it in the class. It has to be in the doingness of the thing. It has to be when you are doing and being in the world. And this is just an example when kids made food. They made laddus as part of Rakhi festival in the cafeteria. They go out to the street. They're distributing. There's a rag picker walks by. So they just go and tie a Rakhi to the rag picker. And that's it. They've connected. And this man started crying. But it's in the immersion in real life. It can't be a simulated lab thing when you're talking about moral values and other values. The other thing that happened was, of course, as our children began to grow in our school, even children from underprivileged sections. Here is a story. Chandrika, who goes on to do filmmaking. She has found a passion. We went to Dudley College in UK. So our children began to grow and go to the top universities of the world. Examination is not compulsory in our school. Our school is a center for learning. Learning is important. Then you find your life path, whichever way you want to go.
And we don't have any examination except for the 12,
last one.
And it is on the voluntary basis. but no examination in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
So our experiential teachers, so our teacher trainings are also very experiential and very joyful. If the teachers are not transformed, if they don't enjoy that process of learning, then they can't bring it to their children as well. And when you're talking about burnout, we're talking about burnout at both ends. We're talking about burnout in the classroom for 8-year-olds, even now you're 2.5, 3 years old. But you're also talking about burnout for teachers. There's so many people with a passion for education world over, I met them. But every time they're so disheartened because they're forced to do certain things, or they think they're forced to do. Now it's no longer compulsory to do those kind of things. So to enable our teachers and our community to share and to really do things which are innovative and interesting. So that's what started happening, going all over the world. And like I was saying, in 2014, everything was going well till our world broke apart. And as you were saying, Jerry, my schooling didn't actually help me or prepare me for any kind of storm that I would face, neither for the agitations I faced, for death and loss and grief, and certainly not for the hardest examination that any human being can face, which is this. And then Tara's notes started appearing mysteriously. And in 2014, to give you an example, well, this is the kind of stuff she wrote. We found her notes about the interconnectedness of the universe. But one note in 2014, we found him ready to actually give up and leave the school and leave everything. And the note was, "Dear Mama and Papa, you both are an awesome couple. You rock." And then she'd written, "You're pioneers in the field of education. You have to move the way forward." And that day I told Pascal, that's it, we can't quit. We have to move, and we have to move with a greater energy. So we came back to school, started our teacher trainings with coming out of our grief, and you will not believe after that, things started changing very much. And what did we do? We began then we went on a quest to understand what, why did this happen? Was it karma? What is this? How did Tara know that she has to go one day? Why did I get flashes that I'm going to lose my child? Where was it coming from? I heard voices in my head. What does it all mean? Is it my subconscious, my intuition, a higher self, an angel speaking? I don't know. So we went on a quest, and we went to Ireland, we went to UK, we went to Portugal, we went everywhere we could to learn, including in India. And then we began to get some answers, and we began to create what is known as a consciousness curriculum.
And
but
people started coming, including thanks to Mingle, and we started really receiving people and receiving so much love and interest in what we are doing from the outside world and from other people in education.
So, what is it? Now we are basing this on hardcore science. Today we are at a moment of time in history where science and spirituality have come together. So you can look these people up in quantum physics, epigenetics, etc. Rupert Sheldrake, it's a banned TED talk, but it's brilliant. Amit Goswami, of course, Bruce Lipton in epigenetics, Gary Zukov, his book Seat of the Soul, quantum physics, explaining soul in physics terms. It's brilliant. And Joe Dispenza. Do look them up if you want to. These are brilliant authors and excellent for yourself and for the classes. So what did we start doing? We started, therefore, looking at, we started connecting with the environment. Children can go to the tree and look at it from a scientific perspective, but also from an intuitive perspective. It's like the tree is an oracle. You go and ask a question. You're at a crossroad in life, and the tree will communicate. Nature will communicate. You'll be guided. The other things we're doing, psychometry, reading information from objects, reading information from photographs. Children have no idea. We just bring random objects, and kids can pick up. This object belongs to a man or a woman, or this is when the object was given. So we filmed these training programs. Even with teachers, they're remarkable. Then working with energy, working with remote viewing. Remote viewing was used during the Cold War a lot between the US and Russia and both FBI and CBI. Now these are declassified, the files in the US. So you can actually look up remote viewing on YouTube, and you'll find brilliant stuff. So after that, of course, we started giving conferences, like Pascal was saying, things started expanding. We were in the flow, and we started going all over the world. From Switzerland to Russia to France. We are going again next week, and we are working with the Ministry of Education in France now, in Normandy. These are inspectors whom we are training on energy techniques and intuition and our pedagogy. And we're going to show you one 4-minute film after this, but before that, I want to show you the slide, which is Tara sitting under a tree, and you can see the aura. And it's a lovely poem. She says, "The world we say, the world we said. The world is a big place, and I'm small, but I matter. Because I am matter. And every child matters. Every child matters. That's the fundamental thing. And we have a responsibility to ensure that they find why they're here and what they want to do with their lives. The last film I want to show you is a phenomenal film. It's a film that is going to show you the power of mind over matter. Can your thoughts change matter? That's the film we're going to show you. Check it. It's based on a Japanese experiment by Masaru Emoto called the rice experiment. You will find it on our website as well, and I'd invite you to do that experiment. Yeah, please start the film. And the film has been edited by our own children. These are projects that our kids do.
It all started with a simple experiment invented by Japanese scientist Dr. Masaru Emoto, proving that emotions induced major changes in the structure of water.
Dr. Emoto has conducted another interesting experiment. He placed rice into 3 glass beakers and covered it with water. And then every day for a month, he said, "Thank you" to one beaker, "You're an idiot" to the second, and the third one he completely ignored. After 1 month, the rice that had been thanked began to ferment, giving off a strong, pleasant aroma. The rice in the second beaker turned black, and the rice that was ignored began to rot.
A class of 5-year-old KG kids decided to reproduce this experiment with their teacher, Parnita.
We were under the training with Anju and Pascal sir, and we saw a video of Dr. Emoto, and we learned that water has feelings. And to establish that understanding, I thought to bring in this project with my kindergarten children.
In all the 3 jars, we have put the same rice. After that, we have put water, but we have written something different in each of them.
Gratitude.
And gratitude. And the other one? Okay.
I love you. I love you. I don't love you. I hate you. I hate you. I love you.
When we opened the jar, the one that was I love you one had a life in it. We can see worms, and they were very much alive in the jar.
As you can see, the jar with I hate you has brown color water and no life in it.
The ignored one was, we saw that there was a life, the worm did come out, but it couldn't survive.
Maybe everything in this world has life. They just need love and affection to live. Without that, they can't survive.
So you see, how your thoughts shape reality. And the ignored child in the classroom is a child whose soul is killed. This child will not, it's even worse than hating a child, it's even worse than anger, ignoring somebody. So as we end today, I'd like you to just look around you and please acknowledge people around you. Please just take a moment and look around you, look into their eyes and smile. Can we do that? Please look around and please look around you. And look at behind you. There are people behind you. And we're all souls. If we all are divine souls, then what's the difference? So just look around each other, smile, hold each other in a total look of unconditional love, because that's the fundamental clue to human misery because of expectations and everything. If you can just give unconditional love, then the battle is won. Thank you very much, all of you.